"You're a disgrace to this family," my stepmother spat as she shoved me out the front door. What she didn't realize was that Dad had already transferred the mansion into my name without her knowing, and today I'm the one handing her the eviction papers. Never in a million years did I picture myself back in my childhood room, stuffing my life into boxes while Elise shrieked downstairs about how I'd failed the family. It's wild how one old photo can knock the air out of you. I found it wedged behind my dusty dresser, a sun-faded snapshot of Dad, Naomi, and me grinning like nothing in the world could touch us. It was taken 8 years ago at the lake house, back before cancer crashed into our lives and wrecked everything. Dad ended up marrying Elise just 11 months after their whirlwind romance began. I still remember the look Naomi and I shared during their wedding, quiet, uneasy, but we didn't say a word. Dad looked the happiest he'd been since Mom passed, and that was enough to keep us silent. "She makes me feel alive again," he told us, and we took that at face value. To be fair, Elise played her role well at first. She'd bring us coffee during hospital visits, put together family dinners, and even organized a nostalgic trip to the lake house to recreate the good old days. But thinking back, the signs were there. She slowly inserted herself into every part of Dad's life. It started subtly, nudging him to change his medical proxy from me to her. "It just makes sense, I'm here all the time anyway," she'd say with a sweet smile. Then she talked him into letting her handle the finances. "You should focus on healing, love," she cooed. Dad, worn down from treatments, didn't notice how she began pulling the strings, setting his appointments during hours Naomi and I were working, tweaking his phone so our messages would mysteriously vanish. But he wasn't as clueless as she believed. Just 5 months ago, he asked me, not her, to take him to one of his chemo sessions. I remember that car ride vividly. He seemed sharper somehow, a little on edge. "Caleb," he said, his hand gripping my forearm tighter than I expected, "I need you to remember something. Everything I've done this past year, every choice I've made, it was all for you and Naomi. Just promise me you'll keep that in mind." I tried pushing for more, asking what he meant, but he just shook his head and started asking about my job instead. That ended up being our last real talk before everything spiraled. Not long after, Elise started saying Dad was too exhausted for visitors, even though Rosa, our housekeeper of 2 decades, would secretly text me to say Dad was asking about us. Then, last week, everything came crashing down. I walked in to find Elise tearing through Dad's study like a woman possessed, tossing papers everywhere. The second she saw me, her whole vibe shifted. Her fake concern kicked in like a reflex. "Your father's very upset with you," she said, all syrupy sweet. "He doesn't want to see you anymore." I knew she was full of it. That very morning, I got a strange voicemail from Dad. "Son, whatever happens in the next few days, I need you to know I love you. Harvey has everything you need." Before I could even reply, Elise somehow convinced the phone company that I was harassing them and got my number blocked from Dad's phone. That's when I snapped. I demanded to see him, told her I knew she was lying. And just like that, the mask dropped. No more fake warmth. "You ungrateful little bastard," she hissed, her glossy nails digging into my skin. "I've done everything to keep your father comfortable, and this is how you repay me? By calling me a liar? Get out. Now." She started hurling my stuff down the staircase, screaming that I was just like my mother. That I'd never accepted her. That Dad was ashamed of me. Rosa tried to step in, but Elise threatened to fire her on the spot. I'll never forget the mix of rage and powerlessness on Rosa's face as I loaded up my car. Then, right as I was backing out of the driveway, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Caleb, it's Dad. Elise thinks she's won, but she doesn't know what's coming. I've handled everything. Stay strong, son." I tried calling back instantly, but the line was already disconnected. That was 6 days ago. I've been staying at Naomi's place, trying to wrap my head around all of this. Dad's words keep replaying in my mind. "Harvey has everything you need." Harvey, Dad's oldest friend and attorney, but I haven't been able to get a hold of him since it all went down. Then, this morning, the hospital called. Dad's condition has taken a sharp downturn. Elise is trying to keep us from seeing him, but she doesn't know one thing. I still hold medical power of attorney. The one document she couldn't get him to revoke. I'm on my way there now. And something tells me this mess is only just getting started. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted time with my father, time that's quickly running out. But Elise turned this into a battle, and from the sound of Dad's message, it looks like he left me the tools to fight back. Now I just need to find the strength to finish what he started. Update 1. First off, thank you to everyone who sent kind messages. It means more than you know. A lot has happened since my last post, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. That night at the hospital flipped everything on its head. When I walked into the room, Elise was already there, perched beside Dad's bed like some twisted guardian angel. The moment she spotted me, she kicked off a scene. But I calmly handed the nurse my medical proxy paperwork. The expression on her face when she realized she couldn't stop me from being there? I'll never forget it. Dad was barely hanging on, but when I held his hand, he gave it the faintest squeeze. Elise stormed out to make calls, furious. That's when Rosa, who'd quietly followed me, closed the door behind us and pulled out her phone. Your dad asked me to record something, she whispered, showing me a video saved just 2 weeks ago. In the clip, Dad sat in his study, clearly worn down but mentally present. He looked straight at the camera. Caleb, if you're watching this, it means things have gotten worse. Elise thinks she's erased all signs of my meetings with Harvey, but she doesn't know about the safe. It's hidden behind your mother's old painting. The combination is her birthday. Everything you'll need is in there. And son? I'm sorry. I'm sorry you have to go through this. When I looked up from the phone, Rosa had tears streaming down her cheeks. He made me promise to wait for the right time, she said quietly. Elisa's been tearing his study apart night after night, searching. Now I know what she's after. Before we could say more, Elise came stomping back in with a hospital administrator in tow, demanding I be removed immediately. In the chaos that followed, Rosa slipped out unnoticed. I stayed by Dad's side all night, listening to his labored breathing while Elise paced the halls, making one phone call after another. Dad passed away early the next morning. The days that followed were a chaotic blur, funeral planning tangled up with tension so thick it felt like the air could crack. Elise took control of everything right out of the gate, barely acknowledging me or Naomi as she made every decision. She even tried to schedule the service during one of Naomi's work shifts, but thankfully my sister managed to swap with a coworker. The morning of the funeral, I showed up at the house before Elise had a chance to change the locks. I still had my key. I went straight to Dad's study. There it was, Mom's painting. That simple lake house landscape she adored, still hanging in the same place. Just like Dad said, behind it was the safe. My hands were trembling as I entered Mom's birthdate. For a moment, nothing happened and my stomach dropped. But then click. The safe opened. Inside was a thick manila envelope with "For Caleb, open only with Harvey present" written in Dad's unmistakable handwriting. There was also a smaller envelope that said, "Read this first." I opened it. One short message inside. Son, Elise will try to have the will read right after the funeral. Letter. Trust Harvey. Everything is ready. I hadn't even fully processed what it meant when I heard Elisa's car pull into the driveway. Panicking, I put the painting back in place, tucked the envelope under my jacket, and slipped out the back door, only to almost bump into Rosa, who had arrived early to help with the funeral. She caught a glimpse of the envelope but said nothing. Just gave me a small nod like she understood. The funeral, of course, was exactly how Elise wanted it, loud, over the top, and more about putting on a show for her friends than actually honoring Dad's life. She even delivered a speech, rambling about how he was her soulmate and how they had all these grand plans for the future. Naomi squeezed my hand so tightly during that part one thought she might break it. And just like Dad warned, Elise had arranged for the will to be read immediately after the service. She gathered everyone in the study, me, Naomi, Rosa, who she couldn't legally exclude thanks to a specific clause in the will, and a few close friends of the family. Harvey arrived last, briefcase in hand, and his face was more serious than I'd ever seen it. Elise looked like a cat who'd caught a canary as Harvey began. The will was simple. Almost too simple. Nearly everything was left to Elise, with just modest inheritances for Naomi and me. I watched her bask in it, growing more smug with every word Harvey read. Then Harvey cleared his throat. There's one final matter to discuss, he said, but it must be handled privately with Caleb. Elise's expression shifted fast, from glee to confusion. What do you mean privately? I'm his widow. I have the right to know. This is a separate legal matter, Harvey said, his tone firm. And it predates your marriage to Thomas. He turned to me. Caleb, can you come by my office tomorrow morning at 11? Bring the envelope. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone about the envelope. Elise's eyes flicked between us like she was watching a poker game she didn't understand. As people started to leave, I overheard her on the phone in the hallway, her voice tense and strained. I don't care what it costs, I need to know what else Thomas was up to. He couldn't have. No. That's impossible. I went through everything. I'm back at Naomi's place now. I didn't sleep. In a few hours, I'll be in Harvey's office, finally unlocking whatever Dad spent his final months preparing. The envelope sits heavy in my bag. It doesn't just hold papers, it holds answers. Dad knew exactly what he was doing. And Elise? She's about to realize she never knew him at all. Update 2. I've been staring at my screen for what feels like forever, trying to figure out how to explain what just happened. That meeting with Harvey changed everything. I showed up at exactly 11, running on fumes, coffee, and anxiety. Usually Harvey's office is packed, you can sit in the waiting room for half an hour before you even see him. But this time, his secretary waved me straight in. No waiting. Harvey was already at his desk, surrounded by documents, and as soon as I stepped in, he stood up and locked the door behind me. Before we begin, he said, I need to ask, have you ever noticed anything strange about Elisa's past? Anything that didn't quite add up? The question caught me off guard. But then a memory surfaced last Christmas. She'd told us she was from Seattle, but when Dad brought up a local high school, she didn't recognize the name. Claimed it must have changed. I thought it was weird at the time. Harvey nodded. Your father noticed the same kind of inconsistencies. She'd always dodge questions about her background. That's why he hired a private investigator last year. He pulled a thick file from a drawer and set it on the desk. Elise Williams isn't even her real name, he said. It's her 6th alias in 12 years. I blinked. What? She's done this before. 5 times. Marries wealthy, terminally ill men, cuts them off from their families, and walks away with most of their estate. Dad had figured it out. Harvey said he started putting the pieces together about 4 months after his diagnosis. I was struggling to breathe. Then why didn't he divorce her? Because of this, Harvey said, and opened the envelope I brought. Inside was the deed to the mansion, dated just 2 weeks after Dad's diagnosis. He had already transferred ownership to me, but did it in a way that wouldn't be finalized in the system until after his death. A delayed legal maneuver to protect me and his legacy. If he had gone to war with her openly, Harvey said, she would have found a way to drag it through court. But this? She never saw it coming. The will Elise heard yesterday? It's irrelevant. She can't claim the mansion because Dad didn't own it anymore when he died. And there was more. A lot more. Dad had been documenting everything, her attempts to isolate him, her sketchy calls, the way she tried to mess with his meds. Rosa had been helping him too, quietly recording conversations, keeping detailed logs of Elisa's behavior. Even Naomi contributed without knowing it. Her background in medicine had helped Dad track how Elise was interfering with his treatment. Harvey looked me straight in the eye. Your father was afraid she might try to expedite things. That's why he insisted you keep medical power of attorney. He trusted you to protect him. It hit me then how much Dad had done, how carefully he'd fought to shield us even while he was dying. But Harvey wasn't done. There's one more thing you need to see. He turned his computer screen toward me and hit play. A surveillance video from 2 weeks ago, Elise in a parking garage shouting at someone. The audio was clear. She was demanding access to Dad's accounts before, quote, that meddling brat, meaning me, could screw up her plans. The guy she's talking to? Harvey said. He's been tied to all 4 of her previous marriages. Same playbook. Every time. We believe the man in the video is more than just some shady acquaintance. He's likely the one who helps Elise scout her victims and sets up her new identities. Just then, Harvey's intercom buzzed. Sir, Mrs. Williams is here. She says it's urgent and won't leave. Harvey actually smiled for the first time that morning. Couldn't be better timing. You ready for this, Caleb? I nodded, surprisingly calm. Somehow, I felt centered, like every move my dad made had led to this exact moment. Seconds later, Elise stormed into the room with a handful of legal papers clutched in her manicured grip. She froze the moment her eyes landed on me. What is he doing here? Funny you should ask, Harvey replied casually. We were just having a conversation about property ownership. Specifically, the deed to the mansion. I watched her face drain of color. That's not possible. I checked everything. I reviewed all the records. You checked what's currently on file, Harvey said smoothly. But not what's about to be filed. What happened next was like watching a storm unravel in fast forward. Elise spun through every manipulative play in her book, the same ones she used on Dad. First came the tears. Then the threats. Then the whole poor widow performance. But when none of that worked, she turned nasty. You think you've won? She hissed at me, eyes blazing. I'll take this to court. I'll tell everyone how you manipulated your dying father. You what? I cut her off, sliding a photo across Harvey's desk. One of the private investigator's shots. Tell them about your little meeting with Grant Whitaker? Or maybe we should talk about what happened to your other husbands. She went completely still. How did you? Dad knew everything, Elise. He just waited until he had the receipts. Because he loved us enough to be sure before he acted. She bolted from the room like the floor had caught fire, nearly knocking over Harvey's secretary on the way out. Through the office window, I saw her climb into her car and make a frantic phone call before speeding away. Harvey and I spent the next hour going over next steps. The mansion deed? It would be officially filed the following day. We had enough to get law enforcement involved right away, but Harvey suggested handling the eviction first. It would be cleaner and more immediate. I just got home after signing all the paperwork. Naomi's helping me word the eviction notice. It has to be flawless, legally airtight. We're giving her 50 days to vacate. But considering everything Dad documented, her calls, her fraud, the PI's files, I doubt she'll wait that long once she realizes the jig is up. The strangest part? I found another envelope buried in Dad's files. This one had only one note on the front. Read when it's done. I'm holding it now, but something tells me I should wait until she's officially gone. Tomorrow morning, I'm serving her the eviction papers in person. Harvey will be there. Rosa insisted on coming too. She said she has to see the look on Elisa's face when she realizes the house staff was never fooled. Dad didn't just leave us the house. He gave us something way more powerful, the truth, and a chance to protect other families from someone like her. I just wish he could be here to see her fall. Final update. It's done. These last 72 hours have felt like a fever dream I can't quite wake up from, but Naomi keeps reminding me it really happened. Pour yourself a drink. This one's wild. Yesterday morning we pulled into the driveway, Harvey beside me and the eviction notice in hand. But instead of finding Elise and hiding, we walked into a full-on brunch party. There were at least 20 people there, some of Dad's oldest friends, all of them clearly uncomfortable and trying to smile through the awkwardness. Perfect, Harvey whispered to me. Witnesses. Elise spotted us from the porch, her face stiffening like she'd just stepped on a landmine. She quickly slapped on her fake smile and hustled to the front door. This is a private event, she said, voice sweet and tight. I ignored her and walked straight inside. Everyone, I called out, raising my voice just enough. Sorry to interrupt, but there's something important you need to see. I connected my phone to the house sound system and hit play, the garage video. Elisa's voice echoed through the room, cold and clear, talking about getting access to Dad's accounts and speeding things up. The room froze. Elise lunged for my phone, but right on cue, Rosa swept in holding a tray of drinks. Elise tripped, glasses shattered everywhere. As she scrambled to her feet, I stepped forward and handed her the envelope. You have 50 days to vacate my property, I said firmly, putting weight on the word my. Though considering what's on that recording, you might want to leave a little sooner. One of Dad's longtime friends stood up, looking pale. Thomas suspected something wasn't right, he said quietly. He told me to keep an eye on his kids. I didn't know. And that's when Elise snapped. You think you've won? She shrieked. Your precious daddy was weak. He was dying anyway. I just made sure his money didn't go to waste on two spoiled, ungrateful brats. You could have heard a pin drop. Even Harvey looked stunned. One of the guests had already pulled out their phone and was dialing 911. Elise must have realized she'd gone too far. She bolted upstairs and we heard drawers yanked open, cabinets slamming. 2 officers arrived in minutes. Apparently, confessing to hastening your husband's death tends to get their attention. They found her frantically stuffing cash and jewelry into a designer bag. But here's the kicker. In her panic, she had opened a hidden wall safe in her closet. And inside, documents, flash drives, insurance policies, names, addresses, evidence from her previous marriages, all of it. She'd kept her own paper trail as leverage in case one of her accomplices ever turned on her. Watching her get handcuffed and led away, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. As she passed me, she sneered. Your father begged me to stay with him at the end. He knew you weren't strong enough. That's when Rosa stepped in. Actually, she said, pulling out her phone, I think you should hear his real last words. She played a video I hadn't seen before. There was Dad, lying in his hospital bed, his eyes glassy but focused. Elise, if you're watching this, I gave you every opportunity to be better, to care about this family, but you chose greed. He turned to the camera. Caleb, Naomi, I love you both. The house is yours now. Make it a home again. Elise didn't say another word. The police found more than enough in that safe to link her to multiple suspicious deaths. Dad hadn't just protected us. He'd been building a case to stop her from doing this again to anyone else. After they took her away, Harvey helped me change every lock in the house. That night, I finally opened Dad's final envelope. Inside was a short handwritten letter and a USB drive. Son, it began. If you're reading this, it means you did what I couldn't. You exposed the truth. But that's not why I'm proud of you. The USB contained recordings, Elisa's late-night calls, financial records, payment logs, all of it. Every family she'd conned. Every accomplice she used. Harvey forwarded the files to the authorities immediately. Today, Naomi and I finally started going through Elisa's things. The police gave us the green light. She's not making bail anytime soon. As we boxed up her designer shoes and overpriced scarves, we stumbled across something chilling. Notes and documents pointing to her next potential target. Another wealthy man, also battling a terminal illness. Harvey's already reaching out to the man's family to make sure they're warned. Hopefully, they won't fall into the same trap we did. The house feels different now. Lighter, like it's breathing again. Rosa's been helping us put things back to the way they were before Elise arrived and started twisting everything. We even found a stack of Mom's old handwritten recipes, tucked away in a drawer Elise had clearly tried to hide. Naomi's planning a big family dinner tomorrow using them. Feels like something we've needed for a long time. Remember how Elise always complained about Dad's ugly old chair in the study? The brown leather recliner she had sent to storage the second she moved in? We brought it back today. I'm sitting in it now as I write this. The cushions are lumpy and the springs creak, but somehow it's the most comfortable seat in the world. I reached under one of the cushions and found something wedged deep in the corner. A note, folded tight and yellowed at the edges. Dad's handwriting. Some battles are worth fighting quietly. Love, Dad. A few minutes ago, I got another call from the police. They're expanding their case, not just against Elise, but the entire web of people connected to her schemes. They've asked me to testify, to tell our story. I said yes, because this wasn't just about saving a house. Dad didn't just protect our inheritance. He gave us the tools to make sure no one else ends up manipulated and discarded the way he nearly was. As for the mansion, Naomi's moving in next week. We've decided to convert the East Wing into short-term housing for families with loved ones undergoing long-term medical treatment. A place where people can stay without worrying about hotel bills or long drives home. Dad would have loved that. He always believed in helping people quietly, without a big show. Elisa's facing some serious charges now. Fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy, possibly more once the investigators finish combing through all the documents and recordings. But more than anything, she's lost the thing that mattered most to her. Access. To wealth. To status. To people with influence. The society pages already have her pegged. The Black Widow socialite. Her reputation is in free fall, and this time there's no rich husband to sweep in and save her. Justice doesn't always arrive in sirens or courtroom speeches. Sometimes it's in the slow, deliberate actions of a dying man who made sure his kids would be safe long after he was gone. And sometimes, it's in the quiet comfort of sitting in your dad's favorite chair, in the house he made sure would stay with his family, knowing the woman who tried to rip it all apart is finally getting exactly what she deserves. Wherever you are, Dad, we did it. The house is ours, and it's finally a home again.